Hi, my name is Jason Ruhoff. This is my wife Cherry, and we've been married for a little over 2 years. My first marriage, my wife had left me for another individual, another man, and I had lost hope over years and years and years of trying to both recover from that and find what I wanted most deeply, which was a family, and be a part of that group where I could have that love and security and that warmth and that plan that God wanted for us. There was a change where I asked God, what's your purpose for me? And it was miraculous. So soon after that, and that change in my heart and that the blessing of being introduced to Cherry happened.
My story was that I waited for a long time to find marriage, love, the hope of having a family, having children. And I went through the devastation of just 3 months after I was married, I got pregnant and with Gracie, and my husband left me. It was the ultimate betrayal and hurt, and all my hopes were shattered. Having the devastation of knowing that Gracie was never going to know what it was like to be raised in a home with both her parents loving each other. Just having my hope shattered. So I was flipping through my Bible looking for some hope, some encouragement from God, and God gave me Gracie's namesake verse, that grace is a gift from God, and God told me that His hand of grace was on me, and that I wasn't alone, and that Gracie was a gift out of this tragedy. Went through lots of court battles, 2 different trials, had to learn to represent myself because I couldn't afford an attorney. It was the most terrifying, horrific, painful nightmare that I could ever imagine going through. And then when Gracie was 18 months old, I was preparing for an upcoming trial, and I decided to go into the woods near my house to have some time to pray and talk to God, and I was singing to God, and I had another horrific tragedy. In this instant, I had my whole face was beaten so severely that every single bone was shattered in my face. My jaw was broken into 6 pieces. My eyes were pushed back in my skull, and my brain was bashed in pretty badly too, to the point where I had lost my memory for a while, didn't know who I was. I was left to die in the woods alone, in the dark, on a cold night, was bleeding to death. And a lady who says she never goes into the woods, especially alone, especially at night in the dark, felt like God was telling her she needed to go for a walk in the woods, and she took her dog and she found me. And you can call it coincidence or divine intervention, but her husband just happened to be a firefighter and her son a medic, and they lived in a neighborhood close to the woods, and she was able to call them, and they got there before 911 did and were able to revive me on the scene. They had to take me by helicopter to Harborview in critical condition, and it took 8.5 hours to revive me and to stabilize me. I had to have several reconstructive facial surgeries to rebuild a face. I have 8 metal plates in my face and 22 screws that are about that long, holding my face and jaw together. I had my mouth wired shut for several weeks. I had 8 surgeons working on my face and working to stabilize me. They didn't have much faith that I would live, or that my face would be restored. One of the surgeons told me I nearly had a nervous breakdown trying to work on my face, because every time he tried to glue and screw my bones back together, they would snap like cornflakes, and that's how badly my face was shattered. The doctors had their interns study me, and I was quite the spectacle, and they all wanted to know how I healed so well, and they would all say, "You're a great healer." And what I would say to that is that no, that God is a great healer, that God, it was definitely a miracle that God saved me and restored my sight, my memory, and my life for a purpose. I didn't have any ID on me, so when 911 came, they didn't know who to call, and they had tagged me as Hope Doe. I still have the bracelet, the tag that they put on me, and I just love that. I love that instead of naming me Jane Doe, they named me Hope Doe, and it just speaks to the hope that God had for me, and his purpose was for me to live, to be Gracie's mom, to meet Jason, to have mercy. And I have seen God's hand of grace and mercy on my life throughout these trials. I heard a sermon once about the story of Jericho and how God had the Israelites march around the walls. And on the seventh time, he had them shout out their victory cry. And it struck me that he had them shout his victory that was going to happen before it happened, before the walls came down. And that is how Jason and I want to live our lives. We want to be shouting out that God is victorious.
He's shown us again and again that our hope that we have, that it becomes this cornerstone, this building block for our lives, and that it is, the foundation, this faith that we have in him, and he is good to his word, and he's fulfilled these promises. So I guess our ultimate blessing is that God has restored our family. We had that hope, we had that faith, and those walls fell, and we are together, and with God at the center of our relationship, and there's nothing but hope for our future.
We have 2 beautiful, healthy daughters, and hope to have more.
Mm-hmm.